Hello, everybody.
We're on? Hey!
We're on!
Hey.
Yes, we are. Welcome here to
We're
a
back.
little new feature we're going to do whenever the heck we feel like
Yep,
it.
basically.
It's a little...
It's not guaranteed every episode, but...
No, it's not. This isn't the guaranteed.
Yeah.
This is the happy
Occasional
ending.
fun
You know, it's like, we'd give you the massage, but maybe you're good enough? Tip us. Happy ending.
Oh, Lord.
That's right, buddy. And this guy, he's
Welcome
been on
him.
here before
Yeah,
on
second
Boomzies,
time.
actually. The famous, internationally world-known
Something like that.
He is...
Durka. You
Yeah.
may know
In-
him as Durka.
In the chat, he is known as the Durka.
Yeah, and he was the
To
one
us,
who was,
he's known as just Dirk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We don't call
Yeah.
him Durka.
That'd be awkward.
That would be.
it would be a little much. Durka, this is my friend Bob. Hey, Durka, what's going on?
Yeah,
You'd have to
yeah.
double it up.
It's actually on my resume.
Really?
I've gotten so many jobs with it.
With Durka?
With Durka, yeah.
amazing.
People love it.
Makes some
What
cash.
kind of jobs do you get with Durka? A bouncer?
yes.
Hey, Durka, come get this guy out of here. Yeah, let's get Durka over here. Yeah, he'll kick this guy out, no problem.
All right, so anyways, welcome to Editor's Note. Tonight, what we're going to be talking about, it's spoilers.
Yes,
Hello.
it says it up here in the title,
Massive-
by the way.
Massive spoilers here. We're going to be talking about the ending to Mass Effect 3. Lots and lots of people are really pissed off about it. There's even a petition. People have raised money through Child's
think it's-
Play.
People
Up there.
have sent something to the Better
They-
Business
they have-
Bureau?
No,
There's been letters,
FTC.
yeah.
Complaint to the FTC. Basically saying, like, the ending to Mass Effect 3 sucks, so you need to make a new one.
They
And
did donate charity. Last time I checked, they were around $80,000.
It was $85,000.
to
And then
Child's Play charity.
To Child's
So that's
Play
good.
charity. So that's great, but it was, the
Yeah.
guys at Penny Arcade had come out and they're like, we didn't realize, really what, Child's Play is being used for this. It's like, we don't, we appreciate the donations. And because people are wanting their donations back because they didn't realize they were giving to Child's Play and not giving to trying to get BioWare to make a new.
What?
So it's kind of weird.
So you're giving
Why
BioWare
would you
$80,000.
Yeah.
Why, no matter where it went to, if you donated to Child's Play, what kind of person's like,
They don't. I don't
whoa,
think,
this Child's Play thing, I don't want to give to you. I want to give to video games.
Yeah.
Give me my money back for helping real people.
Yeah, it's weird.
What is
and
that?
that's why the guys at Penny Arcade were like, okay,
That's stupid.
in the future, don't use it for this, but
That's stupid.
whatever. So, anyways, all three of us here have finished Mass Effect 3.
Me just recently,
Yeah.
literally
Today.
like 10 minutes before the
minutes before
cast, I
Boomzies.
finally finished it here at Landon's house. So it is fresh on my mind. The cherry was popped just hours ago.
Yeah.
So I know how
So-
it feels.
As far as the game up to this point, we've all loved Mass Effect 1. We've all loved
Yep.
Mass Effect 2.
Mhm.
For me, Mass Effect 2 was a pretty much perfect game. There's really not anything I can complain about. Would you guys agree with that?
Mass Effect 2 is still my favorite one, I'd say, so
Okay.
far.
Yeah, it's
The
Definitely.
way it
Not
ended,
perfect,
the
but
way
it's
it
good.
stopped, the
It's
very
well, I'm
end of
saying
it.
like it's a
Pretty
near
close.
perfect game.
Yeah, pretty close.
It's as near perfect as most games can get.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So with that, now we've all played through Mass Effect 3. We've finally finished it. Since you're the freshest, well, actually, should we start with the guest?
Let's start with the guest.
Your initial,
Okay.
your initial response. The second you finish.
Now, there was... Can we tell people who are watching this, because they should know, there were 3 choices
Yes.
at the end. 3 choices at the end. Tell us about those
Okay.
choices.
Basically, 98% of this game made perfect sense, and it all comes down to the last 10 minutes. We'll get to the plot holes and stuff later, but basically at the very end, it comes down to a blue choice, green choice, or a red choice. Red choice is to destroy the Reapers and all synthetic life. Green is synthesis, which is combining organic and synthetic life, and blue is control, where you take control of the Reapers. And also, in all 3 of these choices, you die. That's, I mean,
Well,
everyone's
in
saying...
all 2 choices,
Okay,
you
yeah, that's
definitely
right.
die.
Yeah.
In
You're
one of
told-
the choices, you could die. You don't know.
You're
but
told that in all 3 you die, and then I lost my train of thought. Shoot.
Well, basically,
there's the 3 options
Yeah.
that you get to decide what you want to do. You have control of what you want to do up until that point. And then the way it ends, up until that point, I think people were fine with it.
Yep. 98% of the game people loved.
And
I'd
then
say.
after that point, it's where now we've had this drama. What is the
And,
drama all about now?
well, people are saying that all the fans want a happy ending. That's not necessarily true. People were complaining about how the ending didn't take into account any decision you made in the prior 2 games or in Mass Effect 3. Basically, the last 10 minutes takes into account nothing you've done. It's almost a completely separate experience, disconnected even. And then,
well, let's talk about that for a second.
okay.
because I have something to say to that. That didn't bother me because all of my choices for Mass Effect 1 and 2 were in the entire game of 3.
Yeah.
They were in the whole game. The Rachni, the Quarians, the Geth, all my love interests. So even though it wasn't in the ending, the fact that it was layered through the entire game, okay, it's not in the ending. I'd rather have it all throughout the game than in just the ending as a token thing of going... Because how do you, with all the decisions as well, how do you make an ending that is a combination
you
of
don't have to
three
make
games?
hundreds of endings, but I mean, Heavy Rain did a pretty good job of making your ending different based on your decisions.
But that's
throughout
one
the
game.
Yeah, but I mean, if Heavy Rain can do it, why can't BioWare
That's
do
one
it?
game, though. That's over
Well,
one game.
BioWare's
had, now we're talking about tripling that.
Okay.
Triple the work.
Well, they're the one that took on the workload to begin with, though. They advertised this is the first trilogy where it carries over from game to game, so you can't blame people for expecting them to take that into account, especially...
I expect them to, but, I mean, how would you do that? That is, with making a game this big, that takes into account everything you've done through the 3 games, throughout the entire game,
I think,
and then to have an ending
here's
that
the problem with that, though, is... I agree, that would be very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. But the problem with it is that when they advertise for this... Now, I'll say here, right off the bat, so people kind of know where I'm at. I don't have a problem with the ending. I actually like the ending, and I will go into extreme depth into that later on. But the problem with what we're talking about here is that BioWare specifically advertises that your ending, you've got these various different endings, and they're supposed to be very different. Unfortunately, the endings have minute differences, but are still very, very similar to the naked eye.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as far as the cutscenes at the end,
they're almost identical except color, and there's a few tweaks.
Very small. There's very small tweaks. When you watch all 3 of them, there's very, very small tweaks, and then, like I said, there is a color difference based on your decisions, and then obviously your outcome, because Shepard will die in 2 of them.
Well, Proto was saying the council never mattered, which that is a thing I thought that they would, although they, and that's one I kind of would like to go back actually, because the problems with the ending weren't really my problem. It was some of the stuff in the middle of the game where it was like the decision I made about the Geth to, like, you know, make them free.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
In the end, like, well, I thought we solved it. Oh yeah. Well, you did, but it came back. Or if you didn't in the second Mass Effect, if you decided to destroy the cure and you didn't go along with his research, they come back now. They're like, oh yeah, we found it. I'm like, I thought I destroyed that.
Yeah. There's a lot of issues with that.
Yeah. Well, that bothers me more because I'm like, wait a second. Then my decision has no weight at all?
Actually, it's the same thing with the Rachni Queen as well. You think in number 1 when you saved her, that was kind of a big decision.
Yeah.
It turns out in the third one, my buddy had another playthrough where he didn't save it just to see, or didn't save the Rachni Queen just to see what was different. They made like an abomination Rachni Queen, same exact skin as a normal Rachni Queen. There's like 2 lines of dialogue that are different. It's completely the same.
So the Rachni are still around.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
that
there's no difference.
That bothers me as well. See, that to me is because the weight of the decision I made in the first and the second game, I think should have a lot more. And the same goes, well, the difference in when Morden, if you didn't save Morden in the second one, if he doesn't live, some random Solarian is the one who goes up and releases the Genophage.
Is it really?
It's just a random Solarian. Wow. It's like, oh, I'll help you here, and you're like, okay, I got the job done. That is where that's my biggest part. Anything I have with the ending can all be put back into the rest of the game where I can say, why don't I feel like I had more pull in this?
It's disappointing too in terms of, you know, it's kind of an issue with you try to do too much, and because of that there are certain consequences, especially when it comes around to the third one, which he and I both agree. I don't know if you were about to touch on this. If you were, I'm sorry to kind of take it over, but feel free to jump in. Is your character selection, your character options. You really only have like 6 options, and that's because in Mass Effect 2 you kind of have the option to kind of kill most people in your group. They have the option not to kill them, but they will die. There's good possibility that most of your characters in your party from 2 will die, so in turn now all those characters are basically kind of just, oh hi, you run into them on various planets or deal with them in minute situations, so now they're not in your party, which is disappointing because you go from a game where you have, how many characters could you, like 12
with DLC.
Yeah, it was 12 with DLC, and in this one you get 6 with DLC. And so that's just kind of a little disappointing.
It's almost like
it's
a punishment to number 2 players.
Yeah, but it's only because they tried to achieve so much throughout the series, and that's kind of just a caveat of that. So
and they're also,
kind of
I felt 3 was trying to also get in some new players as well, because they had that DLC.
Well, they had to.
You could see the story of Mass Effect 2, anything you did in 2, you can make decisions from 2 to import into 3, even if you didn't play the second game. So I did feel there was some catered net, and in that, I think it hurt the hardcore fans that have been playing it through all 3 games, for better or worse.
I mean, 2 was in depth. You'd make a pretty. I mean, the whole point number 2 is making bonds with your allies. So the fact that all you do in this one is say hi to your allies kind of upset people. I mean, they make frequent cameos, but at the same time, why weren't they in your game?
Yeah, but as I say all that stuff, does it bother me a lot?
Just didn't make sense.
It doesn't bother me to the point where I'm like, damn you, BioWare!
Yeah,
like, I'm going to sign
so.
this petition and stuff like that. And so, at the end of the day, for me, this game was still phenomenal, especially the entire gaming experience. So it's like those are things like I can recognize.
Now,
that
what
and I can
happens
understand that.
if you? Oh, we got a call coming on the Boomzies phone, which, by the way, you can call still. Hello, you've called the Boomzies phone. Who are we talking to?
If that doesn't gross you out.
Hello.
I was going to call in, but you're still on mine on Skype, so if you didn't want to call in, you could have just logged off.
Well, you can call us, yes. What do you have to say, sir?
Now, I watched, it's Jerem Noble, by the way, I watched Angry Joe's thing on the ending, and I played Mass Effect 1 and 2, and I was like, oh, I'm getting 3, I'm pumped on 3, I'm so getting 3, and then I heard about the ending, and I'm like, well, I don't want to spoil it for myself, but there's some hate, there's some heat here, so I looked at the ending, and I'm like, yeah, that's not what I expected at all. I think what the main problem with the ending is, like, if you're gonna go with the a controversial ending like that, yeah, fine, whatever. But the big problem with the ending is, they specifically stated all of our choices would have some impact and blah blah blah, and then it's not gonna be an ABC kind of ending or whatever. And then they go ahead and they're like, it's an ABC ending, and your choices kind of they're gonna be there, but like was explained, there's gonna kind of be like, well, if you didn't save this guy, we're just gonna have Joe Bill McGee here come in and do
a replacement. It's like
stuff, and it's like no. I killed him because I expected something different to happen. I expect there to be like, this thing is not gonna happen, or you'd have to, go a different way to get to that. You just don't plug that in. That's just not
and that's where 2 had the advantage that it did work really well.
Yes.
I could talk with people and have different conversations.
The other thing is, I didn't bust my ass to save all of my I had to go back and redo the ending a few times to save Legion. I didn't bust my ass to save all 15 of my squad members in Mass Effect 2, just so I could just so from what I hear I could see them for 4 or 5 seconds in a cameo and just like, Shepard, good man, we will drink mini beer when this is over. It's like, no, I want you here. We're supposed to. What I had in my mind was that everybody would get together. We'd have everybody that was still alive in this big thing, and we'd have to go to this core, this nexus of the Reapers, where they're just pumping out Reapers for whatever reason, and there'd be all these guards, or there'd be this crazy like this symbiotic man that's kind of hooked into this shit.
Well, I think
he's being suspended, and you'd have to go charge in and kill him, and there's so much crap, and you just have everybody there, and you'd just be like, we got to do this, just try to get in on that. But it's just, no, we have this godchild, and he's like, I created the Reapers because I don't want synthetics to kill all in the universe.
Yeah.
We're gonna have.
I think what you're talking about is a
population in the universe.
I think you're talking about a Han Solo moment, where Return of the Jedi. Everything's going down. All of a sudden, woohoo! I'm coming in, and yeah, Han, you're the man. It's so good to see you. And he joins you in your battle, and you really feel epic. Wow, the whole crew's here, and I really feel not just a token hey, what's up, Luke? We met in the first film. How you doing? Let's have a beer.
Yeah, and it's I don't have a problem with the sad ending. If you want to have a sad ending where you guys don't win, go ahead and have that. I don't mind that. But don't just have this weird bullshit ending where it's just, we've had choice in everything. Absolutely everything. Every solitary little... And it got annoying in Mass Effect 2 where I'm like, yeah.
Not everyone knows about.
Hey, we'll do that. We'll do that. I'm not sure what I'm saying yes to, but I'll say yes to that. There's so much choice. And then, these people keep popping up, and it's almost too much. And then right at the end, at the very end, where a choice would be nice, they're just like, no. You're gonna take what we're gonna give you, and you're gonna like it. And it's but we've had 3 games where you've given us too much choice almost, then you're gonna.
And I
decide
think
right what end.
there's the end problem. In their ambition, they gave us too much choice, and I think that's what affected it. So, well, I appreciate you calling up, man, and our phones are open if you want to call.
Okay.
Cool,
Yeah,
man.
Thanks.
See you, bud.
Bye.
All right, so we need to maybe hold off for just a minute before we get a lot of phone calls, because we kind of need to delve into this, because he's calling the ending a bullshit ending. I wouldn't call it a bullshit ending. There's a lot of factors, and especially unfortunately he hasn't played Mass Effect 3. He has seen the ending, but without playing it and understanding all the different events throughout the game that culminate to that ending. Yes, I will agree with choice being somewhat of an issue, but the ending everybody says is awful, and it's not necessarily awful.
So let's get into the schools of thought on what the ending is. We have the three endings.
Yes, and there's two, like you said, school of thoughts. There's face value,
right? So
and there's indoctrination theory.
There's indoctrination. So tell them about the two different theories, and just lead them through from the point of Shepard getting onto the Crucible or the Citadel, where we diverge and pass, essentially, where we start diverging.
The ending of the game. You go through this long battle process. It's you and your two partners, whoever you chose to be in your party, and you're making this push towards the Citadel is now over Earth. The Citadel is this key, the catalyst to destroying the Reapers, and you have to make it to the Citadel. The Citadel has closed up, and you have to make it to the Citadel. So you're going for this beam, which will shoot you into the Citadel, and you are going to open up the Citadel.
Which this beam is what necessarily transports all the people, all the races up there that they change
that they're transforming into Reaper.
Which, by the way, I was talking this about Landon. If you look at all the races that have been changed into Reapers, you got the Brutes, which are Turians, and you got
Turians
the Marauders of Turians, and then you got the Asari, the Banshee. Like, oh, it's so cool. And then you go through all the races, and what are the humans? Husks.
Yeah,
They're just like, you're the stupidest ones. You're just gonna run around like apes and just eat us. They don't even give us a gun. Yeah. And I thought that was a slap in the face of humanity.
So
we should have a gun.
Yeah, that's
like a fork or something.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, we're the ones that save. So we have our redemption. So it kind of makes a nice juxtaposition. At the same time, you say it sucks, but it's a nice juxtaposition of the fact that we are both, one of the strongest, and in terms of the Reapists, we're the youngest as well, and the weakest. Right. But anyways, so you're making this fight to this point. And it's a great battle. That last battle is phenomenal. They really just throw everything at you. So it's, as far as gameplay, fucking amazing.
You really feel like you're going...
Yeah, definitely.
Full steam. So you make this charge. You're making this charge. All of a sudden, Harbinger drops down and shoots you with this beam.
Shoots everything. Everything is
just destroying everything.
Away.
So you're making this charge. You get hit. And the screen kind of goes black. It kind of fades out a little bit. And then you wake up, and there you are, Shepard. Completely just, I mean, your helmet is gone, your uniform and everything is just, you're really tattered up, and you wake up and you're really staggering. The screen has got this black glowing, fuzzy stuff around the edges, and you are now staggering towards, you still see that beam of light that you're needing to get to, and you're staggering. All of a sudden, some enemies come at you, and you just shoot real quick, and you've got unlimited ammo, and you take them out. Eventually you beam yourself up. You get up into the Citadel. At this point, you're up in the Citadel. All of a sudden, Anderson is able to talk to you. How is your comm working at this point?
We can get to the potholes after we explain everything.
So, and so you're making your walk forward. Anderson starts talking to you. He says, "Hey, Shepard, are you up here?" You say, "Yes," basically. And he's like, "Okay, where are you at?" He tries to explain where he's at. It doesn't sound familiar to Anderson at all. You keep pushing forward. Eventually, you walk your way up. You start looking around. You see the Citadel starting to shift a little bit. Eventually, you make your push into the control room of the Citadel, the final area you need to get to. As you walk up there, you see Anderson at the control room. Anderson turns around. He's clearly being controlled by somebody.
Something's going on, right?
Something's happening. It's not normal. And so you start talking to him. All of a sudden, Elusive Man shows up. Elusive Man is in full indoctrination. He's like, his face is going.
He reminds me a lot of
Saren.
Saren. He looks like Saren a lot.
Yes, exactly. So Elusive Man comes up there. He starts talking. He's like, controlling the Reapers is the route to go. This is what you need to do. You try and convince him otherwise. You're having this conversation, and you convince the Elusive Man that what he's doing isn't right for humanity, but he can't control himself anymore. He is fully indoctrinated. And so he pulls a Saren, the exact same move as Saren. He shoots himself in the head, drops himself dead.
Before that, he makes Shepard pull his gun
that's
up
true.
and
Yes.
shoot
Yeah.
Anderson.
And, elusive man or somebody is controlling everybody here. So Shepard pulls his gun out forward. At the exact same time he's pulling his gun out forward, Anderson pulls that exact same hand out and goes like this to say stop, basically. Elusive man keeps talking, makes Shepard shoot Anderson right here. Shoots him in the lower gut. Anderson doesn't die. He's still up. They're still having a conversation. Then, like I said, Elusive man shoots himself in the head, drops down. You have a conversation with Anderson. You make it... what happens exactly right after that? You make it to the control
Well,
panel.
you make it to control. You open up.
Hack it.
You hack it up,
yeah.
and then you open up the
You
citadel,
open
and
up
then
the citadel, and you sit down
next
and you
to
have a
Anderson.
conversation with Anderson. You're talking like, this is it. You kind of have that moment of like, we've done it.
Yeah, and
we've
they're
made our
joking like,
combination.
we've got the best seats
Yes.
in the house. We see Earth.
Yes,
We've
and
done
so
it.
Anderson finally, he's like, okay, that's I've done what I can. I'm gonna die at this point. I'm gonna close my eyes. It's that slow quintessential death thing.
Right.
The second he dies, Shepard kind of, then his hand is back here in the same area. He kind of looks at it. Now he's bleeding all of a sudden. So then he's like, okay, Hackett, Admiral Hackett starts talking to you at this point. Says, okay, we cannot get the Crucible to fire. The catalyst is not firing. It's got to be something on his end. So Shepard gets up, walks forward, kind of passes out, can't make it all the way to the control panel. All of a sudden he's lifted up to this top section. Once he's at the top section, a little AI boy walks up. It's the same exact boy that you see throughout the game. There's a little child that kind of keeps reoccurring. That
First
Shepard,
the game,
it's
in
it's this child that Shepard couldn't save, and Shepard sees him in his dreams. It's kind of a guilt thing for him. He sees it as an individual he couldn't save. He can't save everybody, and so he focuses on this child. This child comes up to him, basically explains to him the choices. He says, I made this decision to wipe out all organic life in order to solve chaos. And from that, he says, clearly it's not working anymore. You're the first organic to make it to this point. So I have to find a new solution. And so he gives Shepard 3 options. He says, 1, you can destroy us. You can destroy the Reapers. That's what you set out to do. You can destroy the Reapers. In turn, it will kill... what was
Geth?
It'll kill the Geth. It'll kill himself since he's partly synthetic.
It will. I guess you are right that it is because he's partly synthetic.
So he's partly synthetic. He'll kill himself.
He's told that you're gonna die.
The AI says peace will not be kept because we will just continue to create synthetics and they will rise up again. The other option is you can merge, or you can control the Reapers. You can. Which is what the elusive man wanted to try and do, and the AI says, that's basically puts that as the right decision, and Shepard literally says, so the elusive man was right. So that's your other option. You can try to control the Reapers. You will die, you will lose yourself, but the Reapers will answer to you. You will be in control of them. The other option is you can merge with the Reapers. All your information, every fiber of your being is now merged
and
is now merged with the Reapers, and so hopefully they will, kind of listen to you and be more like you and play nice, maybe, whatever it is. But again, you die. All options, you die. When you look at this too, the options, the one where you destroy the Reapers is represented as red.
Which is Renegade.
Renegade.
The
everything here points to that is the wrong decision. That is the bad decision. That's a decision you shouldn't make.
Right. They don't even make any qualifying comments like they do about the other 2 options. The other 2 options, Shepard and the little boy, seem to have a conversation, whereas the red option's like, oh yeah, that's what you came here to do, that's there. It feels very neglected.
Yes, and it's definitely portrayed as the wrong decision. Then you've got the control the Reapers. That is represented blue, Paragon. And again, they say that is the right decision. That, Shepard literally says the elusive man was correct. So you got that option. The other option, again, is merging with him. That's represented as green, kind of a little in between.
And the thing is, visually also, you have 2 metal structures, a right,
left, and a center.
And then the center, which is the right is the red, which is to destroy the synthetics. Left is another machinery control panel, which is to control the Reapers. But the middle, the one I found the most interesting was the middle. It's the light. It's a center light, like Tron almost.
It's like, come here,
console.
So these are
just visually,
yes.
The center one looks very pleasing. It's like it's this glowing light. These are 2, very mechanical machine. But this is the light. Yeah. It's a beam. Yeah. You visually feel more comfortable.
It's very confusing. When I sat there, I stopped for like 3 minutes. Like, what am I going to do? And I saw him make the same decision. And he paused. Brian paused and was like, I don't know what to do, because it's very confusing. Yeah. It's like Everything you set out to do throughout 1, 2, and 3 is to destroy the Reapers.
Right.
And now that decision is showed to you as wrong. But that's the right decision. That's the decision you're supposed to get the proper ending. That's the decision you make. So that's what we're going to talk about. Go and you take that decision. You shoot and you destroy the Reapers, and by doing so, it releases this beam of energy. The Crucible works, and you destroy all Reapers, all synthetic life. In turn, you destroy the Mass Effect relays.
Destroy the Citadel as well.
Destroys the Citadel. Okay, so the Citadel does get destroyed.
And Red it does.
What's that?
In Red it does. And the other two it doesn't.
Okay. And so that happens, and then if you get the proper ending, also if you get 5,000 troops, that happens. Oh, also, sorry,
Yeah, before
I'm skipping
that.
a little bit. So the all that happens. And
All
then
the
you get
Reapers are gone.
All the Reapers are dead. So you see that, and then like basically humans and everybody's kind of rejoicing there in the field, and then you see all of a sudden the Normandy is flying as fast as it can away from like this explosion.
Right,
This is
which
all
is-
three endings, not
This
just the
is
red
all
one.
3 endings.
Yeah.
And all the mass relays are being...
All the mass relays are being destroyed, and that's seemingly what they're running away from is a Mass Effect relay being destroyed, and you're running away from that. They get almost away from it, and they get caught up into it. It gets damaged. It crash lands on this jungle-like planet. You don't know what planet it is that just crash lands, and all of a sudden, Joker comes out, the pilot. He comes walking out, and then two people in your party walk out. For me, it was Liara and Garrus. They walk out, and they just look up to the sky and like, happy ending, like they survived, it's like good times, but it doesn't really make sense at that point. So cut from there. Was there anything else I'm missing before it cuts the secret?
It was odd how when Shepard was talking to the child, how at every point in Mass Effect you always have the ability to investigate, ask further questions, make more sense of
Right, it
things.
says investigate
And
over
yet,
there and like all that.
when you're talking to the child, you have literally no choices.
But I like that though, because it's
I mean, it adds to the argument, but it's
well,
just
it adds to the confusion. It adds to
Right,
Yeah.
you don't feel like
like-
you're in control. You're
Yes.
just like the way the little boy presents it is these are your options. That's it. You don't feel like because in other Mass Effect endings, especially like the one with Sarah,
It makes it tough.
You feel like you have diplomatic, like I can talk him into shooting himself, or I have to fight him. This one is like
It's
this
very
is
very
it.
tough, and it's on you. It's not on you as Shepard. It's on you as the gamer. Now you're like, I really have to make this decision. Like, what am I gonna make? And it's very tough. It's very very tough. That's why all of us. I assume you paused at that point too. And was like, what am I gonna do?
Because now I will say to its credit, that was even if we want to argue whether the choices were good or not, or if it affected from Mass Effect 1 or 2, the fact that none of the choices were black and white, they all seem to have negative connotations. None of them, which most video games, when you get to the end of a game, it's like, here's the great ending that makes everyone happy with you, and here's the bad one.
Yeah.
Don't be the
I
bad
think the fact
guy.
that you die no matter what.
Right,
added
this
to
one
it
just
as
felt
well.
like,
That all
look,
was bad.
you make the choice. We're not going to give you any clear-cut answer as to good, bad, middle.
It's tough.
It's kind of like the ending to Deus Ex.
Yeah.
You feel very much like you're choosing for the rest of the universe what's going to happen, good or bad.
And it's tough. Like that's the key to that it is tough.
So, and at the 5,000 troops, if you
At
have
the 5,000 troops, after all that happens, then you cut back. Scene cuts to like all this rubble, just destroyed rubble, and then you see Shepard's you see an N7 dog tag, and you see basically a chest, and it kind of pauses on that for a second. Then all of a sudden, that's it, and then it cuts away. So you see a breath, and you're like, Shepard is still alive, or somehow he's still alive. So, like what's going to happen there? Cuts away, get all these credits, and then it comes back, and then you get this extra little scene at the end, which is the Stargazer scene. It takes place in the future from the events that you have there. You're on this planet, you're looking off into the sky. It's a little boy and an older, like a grandpa type figure, and they're having a conversation. And the boy's like, "Tell me more about the Shepherd." And he's basically the older grandfather is explaining to this child the events that took place. They say a long, long time ago, and they're talking about Shepherd, and they're calling him the Shepherd, which is a great play on words. It's really nice. He led the galaxy to where they're at
he's
now.
the shepherd. Well,
and
I there's a whole nother line I could go down. If you look at shepherds, even in a biblical sense, the way he's portrayed as a shepherd is very interesting. If they're going along the lines of him being a shepherd in a biblical Middle East sense, even if we're not talking about the Bible, but shepherds in that time, their role as shepherds of their flocks is very interesting if they're trying to make parallels to that.
Well, and so you get that, and then the little boy's like, "When can I go to the stars?" Just someday soon. He starts explaining like there's millions of galaxies, millions of planets out there, etc., etc. So that is, in a nutshell, the ending. So that
Crimson says he got over 5K and didn't get the breath on the green ending. Did you have not only over 5K, but was your effective troop rating over 5K as well? Because you could have 5K.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to have your galactic
You have to have
readiness.
galactic readiness up to a certain... Like, if you only had 5K and you had 100% galactic readiness, you'll get
Good.
5K.
It
But if you have 99%...
the breath and the green ending. You don't get the breath and the green ending no matter what. Only the red ending gets the breath.
Yes.
Only
That's
the
why
red
it's-
ending gets the breath?
It's the right ending. Like, period.
The other
That's-
two don't get
yes.
the breath.
Nope.
So, with all that being said, I guess I'll kind of jump into my exact reactions from beginning to end before I did research, because obviously I beat it after all this controversy started, and I had to stay away from forums. I had to stay away from reading about this
J.K.
stuff.
Spencer's the grandfather character
Yeah,
was
it's Buzz
voiced by
Aldrin.
Buzz Aldrin,
Mhm.
Yes.
which is a great
Yes,
homage
yeah, really
to
nice. Yeah.
space travel.
And so, okay. So once I beat it, this guy had already beaten it, and he at first didn't like it. I'll let him kind of go into his whole thing on it. So he's telling me he's really curious about how I'm going to react to it because he didn't like the ending. And so I beat it, and I call him up immediately before I even get to the Stargazer thing, and I'm like, I guess I'm not upset with it. Like
Right.
He told me there's going to be a lot of plot holes, and I see these plot holes of, you know, Mass Effect relays being destroyed. Does that mean that everything in that galaxy is going to be destroyed? We'll talk more about that later. And I see, like, okay, well, why is Liara and Garrus, who were in my party, why are they now on the Normandy? I see these as plot holes, but the thing that I worry more about that is, more than that, is that when I'm going through this ending, I'm seeing this as I'm being tricked. I'm seeing this as kind of a play in my head, but I don't know why. You know, I'm getting these three choices, and like we've said before, the right decision is being portrayed as the wrong decision.
Right, it is.
And it's confusing to me, and I'm trying to think,
Because
like, why
the
is this in
child
my...
says the war will still continue.
Yes.
Synthetics will be made, and there will still be war.
And so it confuses me, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. There's something is off in this, and I didn't feel like it was because of bad writing. I felt like it was meant to be that way. And then I think back, I'm like, why is this kid here? And you know, I'm looking back at the beginning. You see this kid in this. You see the kid get killed. This kid that's being portrayed throughout this whole game. You see him get killed. But before that, you see, or was it before or after that you see him in the tunnel? It would be before he's killed, right?
Yeah, it was
yeah,
before
yeah.
he's killed. You
Okay,
see him in the
so you-
tunnel at
you
the very
see-
first of
yeah.
the game. He's flying one of the
Yeah, you
ships
see him
around.
flying, and then you see him in this tunnel, and you're having this conversation. You're like, oh, come, you know, I'll save you. And then Anderson shows up, and then this kid, you turn back around, and the kid disappears. But it's a tight room. When you're having this conversation with this kid, Anderson should be able to hear this kid. You know, there's no reason why Anderson wouldn't be able to hear this kid. And why would the kid run away?
The kid is saying, this is J.K. Spencer, the kid is saying that conflict won't end because Shepard ends this war. Which I don't know what he means by that. So the kid is saying that conflict won't end because
Well, it's him saying that
Shepard
synthetics
ends-
will come back. Yeah.
Right, that's because he's
Right.
saying, like, peace won't last.
Right.
Was the comment.
The kids will make synthetics, and the synthetics will kill you.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
just
that's his argument.
You have peace now, sure, but the cycle continues, and that's the reason why they have this.
Which
But anyways,
the whole
so-
reasoning behind the kid was, I'm gonna get synthetics to kill you, so you don't kill yourself using synthetics.
yes,
That was the whole argument.
Which is
anyways.
kinda weird.
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, so I see that, and I'm like, okay, something's off, and I see these, you know, he's got these dream sequences too, and I'm like,
Right.
this is all weird. I don't see this as reality, and so I already knew something was off, and so at this point, I tell Dirk, I'm like, I'm not upset with this. Like, I'm not I found the ending all right even before I had all this extra knowledge, and so I start putting these pieces together, and for me, I start realizing maybe Shepard is being indoctrinated during this process, because if you think about it.
That's been a subtext through all the games.
Yes, because the process of indoctrination is once you're basically around Reapers, even just basically around them, you can become indoctrinated, and you start seeing, as they describe it in 1, 2, and 3, and all PDAs and conversations. They describe being indoctrinated as you see oily figures, you hear voices in your head. You start to basically betray yourself and betray your own consciousness, and start making decisions that you wouldn't normally.
And that's why in the
make.
first game, Saren thought he was doing what was
Yes.
right. Then he was indoctrinated. And then the matriarch even,
Yes.
the Asari matriarch, who should have been able to resist it, came on to try to get him out of that. But in doing so, it's kind of the idea it's easier for somebody to pull you down than you to pull them up. And then she was indoctrinated.
So to me, I'm seeing this as, you know, clear-cut descriptions of word for word oily figures and voices in your head.
J.K. Spencer just made a cool Gundam reference. War, peace, revolution, the endless waltz continues. Look at that Gundam Wing reference
There you
right
go.
here. Go ahead, sir.
And so, you know, it word for word explains what indoctrination is. And throughout this game, you have these dreamlike sequences where there literally are oily figures.
oily
There's
figures.
voices in your head. You hear Reaper groans, and this little boy is in every single dream. And you realize that basically that little boy is kind of represents your guilt, because
regret.
Your guilt and regret of like, you can't save everybody. No matter
Right.
how hard you try, there's going to be losses, and Shepard speaks about that throughout
Well,
the game.
don't the
He's like,
Turians speak about that too? I remember speaking to one of the generals and him saying humans are always obsessed about saving everybody, whereas the Turians save who they can as the means to the end.
Yeah.
And I think that was a
well, the
good
Protheans
point.
are very similar to that as well.
Exactly. So
And
that's why
they're
humans
very.
do that.
He's got a lot of regret and a lot of guilt behind this, and so I see that as a process of indoctrination, and then especially so now I go back and I see this. I get hit by this Reaper beam, and I wake up, and the same kind of glow, the same kind of reddish blackish stuff on the screen, in the same sense of when I go through these dreamlike sequences, is now there, right? When you're in these dreamlike sequences too, you see all these trees and you're running through this forest, kind of like a park thing. Immediately, when you get hit by that Reaper beam at the end, if you turn around, the whole time you're doing this final push towards the Reaper beam, you're in a concrete area, like it's like
And you're
street-
walking
Cars
really
and
slow.
concrete.
yeah, cars, concrete, there's no trees, there's no wildlife, there's nothing like that. And then if you turn around, the second you turn around, you see like a destroyed tree and like some like destroyed bushes right there at your feet and stuff like that. And so you're like, that's not there. That wouldn't be there. Even if it was destroyed, it's not like you're going to break concrete and all tree is there.
Exactly.
Congratulations, So it's like, this
doesn't
isn't right.
doesn't make
And so it
sense.
starts to make that connection of maybe this entire ending sequence is Shepard going through indoctrination. It's in his head, or it's semi in his head, as you'll probably go into later on, whether or not it's fully in his head or semi in his head. So you start making this push forward, and you get up there and you start talking to Anderson and the Elusive Man, and at that point you start kind of making this connection of like, the Elusive Man represents the part of your mind, the part of your body that is indoctrinated.
Right.
You're already having to fight indoctrination, because it only makes sense that you're being indoctrinated for all the stuff that you've been in contact with Reapers throughout all 3 games, all the different artifacts you've dealt with. It only makes sense that you're going through some sort of indoctrination.
Because
The biggest
Saren
thing
touched
was-
the same artifact, and that's the point where he became indoctrinated.
He
So
had
the
a lot
fact
more
that
contact with Sovereign than we did, though.
Well,
That's why it's so much faster.
exactly, but you look at it and say, if over the period of 1 game, over 3 games, Shepard should have been any lesser man would have been much more indoctrinated.
Well, the biggest argument I've seen toward the process starting is in the Arrival DLC. You know how you get knocked out by that artifact for a little bit?
Yeah.
That's what people are saying they think it started.
Well, nonetheless, that might be a big push to it, but any kind of
It's been progressive over the games. They've been hinting at it, but the big,
and this game,
the big thing
and
that
it seems
started
like, and it definitely seems from beginning to end, if you look at it in this light, this whole game is a process of indoctrination. It gets worse and worse, and like, because eventually the last dreamlike sequence you see, because at the end of each dreamlike sequence, the boy burns up. The last dreamlike sequence, both you and the boy are burning up in that dreamlike sequence. So it's you like, okay, well now you're basically being indoctrinated fully at that point. It's a big push forward from just you seeing a boy burning up, and now you're burning in your own dream, in your own indoctrination sequence. So the Elusive Man to me would represent your part of your body, your mind being indoctrinated, and Anderson will represent your will to fight.
Right, he's fighting against everything.
And here's where it starts to make these weird assessments of like things to there's too many clues for this to be chalked up to bad writing. There's so many clues in this that point to this. So when you're being controlled and your hand goes up to shoot Anderson, the second your hand goes up, Anderson's exact same hand on the opposite side goes up to stop. So it's kind of like there's a weird connection here, something weird. You shoot Anderson right here in the chest because of the Elusive Man controlling you. You eventually talk the Elusive Man down. He makes the exact same decision in the exact same way that Saren did.
Right,
shoots
he says,
himself
I
in the
can't
head.
control.
So it makes sense that it's like whatever's happening here is being affected by Shepard's own memories, too. It's whether or not it's, reality or what. It's this indoctrination is using his own mind, and it seems like it's using his own memories too, and putting, his indoctrinated portion in the same scenario as Saren was. So it's using his own memories. And at the same time, as you're walking up to that main portion of the Citadel, or the main portion that control room of the Citadel, you look to the side, and clearly what's being presented to you is a combination of the Citadel, a combination of the Reaper base, and
Well, they even talk about one of the interesting points is Anderson says to him,
Yeah.
"Do you think they're building another Reaper?"
Yeah.
Which throughout this whole game has never been. They've never.
'Cause
The
that
worry
hallway-
was that the Reapers are going to come down to Earth, get everybody, and we're all going to die. The thought of them building a Reaper was never ever mentioned. That was all in 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me was why is this all of a sudden
on Anderson's mind.
right?
Like, what a
and
thing to think about at this time.
Why? Yeah, it's like we're just trying to get this thing going to
Yeah.
blow them up.
Yeah.
I don't care if there's a Reaper. I'll blow them up like I did last time.
But then there's also like the hallway. The initial hallway you walk in is full of dead bodies. Looks exactly like the collector's base number 2.
And what's really
and then
funny
the
is,
engine room looks exactly like the Shadow Broker ship.
but here's what's funny: the keepers
Mm-hmm.
are there on the computers,
Mm-hmm.
non-reactive to you,
Yeah, you can't affect them
and
whatsoever.
you can't affect them whatsoever. I tried to shoot
Mhm.
them; they're just there,
well, and
non-reactive
also,
to
here's
you.
kind of I find this kind of a little bit of a moot point, but it should be brought up nonetheless.
Infinite ammo.
You have infinite ammo.
Yeah.
There's no ammo on you're just shooting.
Which
just
could either
continuously
be
shoot.
the game decision to say we don't want you to worry about ammo, we want you to
Right.
watch the story. Because like
Be
Metal Gear,
much more intense if you were
Metal
down to
Gear
8
Solid
shots,
4
though.
did this in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
At the very end of the game, when you're running through this microwave chamber,
Right.
they don't really worry
So I
about.
find
bullets
that
and
kind of
everything
as a it's moot.
Mhm.
It could be either or. It's not a big deal. So I'm not going to focus on that. But it should be brought up nonetheless. And so, like I said, Elusive Man shoots himself, dies. Then you go forward. You have your conversation with Anderson. Eventually, he will die. Just he's so worn out. Whatever he's shot to. The second he dies, you look down. The same exact place that you shot Anderson. Now all of a sudden you're bleeding in that same exact plot.
And they make
spot.
a very.
So it makes
the thing I was questioning about at that point. They make a very specific, deliberate move to show this, to show his hand, and to show blood on it.
Yes.
And at that point, I was like, "Well, yeah,
But
he's
that
been
wasn't-
hurt." Well,
that
to
didn't
me, it's
need
like
to be
he's
there.
been
It's
hurt, but
unnecessary.
why is that there?
Yes.
That,
It's
So they're
also,
calling it.
but they
calling
made
it
a
out.
point
so
to
it's
do
a very
that.
specific thing. So that shows me in turn, because I'm looking at these different characters, Anderson and Elusive Man, as portions of his mind, portions of where he's at within being indoctrinated. I see that as a merger of where Shepard is and then his will. You know, they're
Well,
merging
Strider
back.
brings to the point: when does the Elusive Man have mind control powers over humans? Which I found that's
Yeah.
the one question I had. Yeah, he has. Even if we're in reality, if he has Reaper powers, I've never seen a Reaper power that says we can control human beings. Besides, if we infect you, I've never seen a Reaper power go control human.
I mean, even if a Reaper does it, since when can humans do it?
Right? We can.
Saren could not control anyone
Saren
that
can
was
control a
indoctrinated.
human.
Yeah.
Right? But see, that's the difference. By physical manipulation, the Elusive Man was pulling his hand up. I've never seen that
And then
power.
also,
that's a good point, Strider.
When Shepard shoots Anderson, if you listen close enough, they both groan.
That's a good one, yeah. Slow it down, man. Seriously, I'll show you the videos of this. This is amazing. Thank you for bringing that up. The second Anderson is shot, you listen to the soundbite. It is not one groan. It is 2 groans. It is literally Anderson groaning and Shepard groaning.
See, that feels very Fight Club like to me, where your reality has been distorted, where it's a disassociation
Yes.
from your body and yourself into these kind of psyche. But
Is there... Oh, sorry.
of course, I kind of want to go on to. I mean, we've got the school of thought that Landon has, and then we've got your school of thought. Were you finished?
Well, I was going to kind of continue
the
just...
last
Oh, go ahead,
just,
man,
a little
go
bit.
ahead.
So,
No,
so
I wanna-
you get up to that, you know, you make that decision. Now you're merged with your will, and so it's your final stretch to fight indoctrination. You get up to the top and you meet this AI, and they don't do the stereotypical like I'm in this form because it's something that is familiar to you. They don't need to do that. You know, it's kind of cliche, and so they don't need to do that with this child form coming at you. That still kind of represents his guilt, and it's playing to his, you know, his guilt, to his emotions, and it's definitely a mind game. Again, that is a Reaper. That is Reaper indoctrination. They want you to make the wrong decision, so they portray the decision that you are not supposed to make as the right decisions. They portray everything else as paragon, as the right. They make you say, the Elusive Man was right. They make everything you fought for in 1, 2, and 3, destroying the Reapers, look like the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And it's a trick, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful trick. It's not quite on par with Metal Gear Solid in the terms where Psycho Mantis
yeah.
really makes, you know, fucks with you, but it's very similar to that, because now not only is your character Shepard going through indoctrination, essentially they're making you, the player, go through indoctrination because you're screwed up. You're like, what's the right decision? Everything that I want to do, I'm told, is wrong now. So it's wonderful. I absolutely love that, and it's great to see that thing. So you go.
By
through
the
that.
way, hello Dan Rizzo, welcome.
Yeah. So you go through that and you make the decision that they portray as wrong, which is technically the right decision. You destroy the Reapers, and then then you see, all this other stuff where the Mass Effect relays are destroyed, and now you see Joker and everybody on the ship flying away. Everybody that's supposed to be in your team that was at your party when you got shot down. Now they're all of a sudden in the Normandy, flying away, and to me in my head I'm like, I don't see that as reality.
You thought they were dead.
Yeah. Because
sure.
originally, it's definitely everybody that was in that final push towards the Reaper should be dead. How the hell are you alive? How the hell is Anderson alive and already that far ahead of you? Doesn't make any sense. And then on top of it too, another weird thing, that second that you're waking up, you can hear people. They're flying over you too.
Yeah.
And why would they not stop and see Shepard getting?
Well,
up
they
and,
even announced.
help?
I can't remember the name of that new guy they introduced toward the end, but he said, "Did anyone make it to the beam? No, everyone was decimated.
Yes.
Yet Shepard's standing up.
He's standing.
Shepard
up
made it to the
Standing up
beam, and
and
somehow
shooting people.
Anderson made it too.
Well, and somehow Anderson make it, and there are 2 people that at that point are still alive, but then die. So in total, there are 4 people alive. Yet everyone goes, "Here's these experts go, yeah, everyone's dead."
Yeah.
Then-
And Neku, I'm sorry. Right now I'm kind of taking the board here. Everybody's going to have their chance to really speak. Unfortunately, I'm kind of just giving my initial presentation, kind of giving you guys an intro into indoctrination theory. We're all going to give our own, personal opinions on this. So he will talk. I'm sorry, I'm taking the stage right now, unfortunately. So I see this Normandy crash landing and everybody walking out alive. And by the way, the music at the end's pretty cool. I really like the music.
The music,
It's really
music
cool.
at the very end, you do feel.
I really enjoyed it.
Very good.
And so I see that as something playing in his head. It's like, I've made the right decision. I've done the right thing. And my friends are all alive. Whether or not they are or not, you have no idea. Because I see that in his head. It's like he's made the right decision. He's fought indoctrination. And the second Shepard starts making the decision to destroy the Reapers, he's hurt. He's so hurt. And then once he starts shooting it, after you get a couple blasts off,
he's running
he is
forward.
bam into it.
And he's running into
That's
it.
all 3 choices. He gets so much momentum right when he's about to make a
Okay.
final decision, though.
So there's some weird give and takes here. So I see this as the final ending is him going through indoctrination. I find that a awesome, wonderful, badass ending. Like, if that is here's the issue. Here's my final issue, and I'm going to hand over the floor. I want BioWare to clarify. It's weird. It's unfortunate. It's like if Fight Club ended 20 minutes early. It's left up to the viewers to decide. Oh wait, that's the same person, but they don't tell you that it's the same person. I kind of want that little extra clarification that I was right. This is an indoctrination.
Right.
This is that, and you don't get that. You don't get that at the end after the credits. You don't get any of that. You don't get this clarification, and that's part of the issue here. So it's like, do you look at this as face value and see these issues that don't make sense, things that don't add up? Or do you look at it as indoctrination and things make perfect sense at that point? And, what do you do? BioWare doesn't clarify.
Right.
So that's where I run into the issue. I loved the game. I loved the ending. I was not upset at the beginning. I looked up information. I looked up both sides too, because he was very adamant about at the beginning that it was a bad ending. It wasn't good, and I'm gonna let him take the.
So
floor
yeah,
on
now we've gone from the indoctrination to now face value.
Well, see,
the other side of
the
the
problem
coin.
was I finished it a week before Landon, so all this evidence of indoctrination wasn't exactly out yet. Because, I mean, you felt something was fishy. I felt something was fishy too, but you named off every plot hole you found after that point. You didn't catch, like, all 30 things that led to indoctrination the first time you played through. It was after people compiled forums and compiled YouTube videos proving all this evidence. So, I mean, when I first finished, I went looking for information because I felt something was off. And all I could find was people, we think it might be indoctrination, but look at this plot hole, and this plot hole, and this one, like all the ones we just named. But at the time, it was pointing more toward plot holes than it was indoctrination. So that's why I was so adamant
did you
about it.
feel, though, because I definitely did, and I told you on the phone, too, I hadn't had a chance to put the pieces together that it was indoctrination, but I had a feeling like, I'm being tricked. This isn't right, and I'm being tricked, and I don't necessarily know that this is reality.
So what were name some of the main plot holes you felt?
Okay. Well, I mean, just because it doesn't feel right doesn't mean it could be bad writing. I mean, BioWare's made mistakes before, so I mean, obviously,
They
bad
did
writing.
like Dragon Age 2.
Yeah, Dragon Age 2. Bad
They did
writing
do
does
that.
happen. So, I mean, obviously it felt weird, but I mean, the biggest plot holes is why was the boy the AI? How did the people designing the Crucible know that this boy would it just makes no sense why it would be a small boy in the first place,
Well,
or the
but
one
what-
that Shepard saw.
but
why not
why
a small
does-
girl? Why not a full-grown boy? Why not a Prothean? It could have been anything. It just
But
happened
why-
to be the same
And why
boy.
is it the exact
same boy? That's one thing that was weird. And the biggest plot hole obviously was
But I see that as a wonderful connection.
Well, now that I know the evidence, it's
But
a
even
wonderful
still,
connection.
yeah, but
I
even
mean,
still.
at the time there was no. I wasn't thinking indoctrination. I thought I was still playing the
Right.
game, you know. But and then, damn. What? Obviously, Anderson. How did Anderson get up there before you, completely uninjured, not even in armor? He was just in normal, not normal clothes,
Yeah.
but he was just in.
And he was in normal gear. And what was really interesting, if you were hit by a Reaper beam,
You should
especially
be
at the
done.
very end battle, when they were doing that, when the Krogans and Turners are fighting, when that beam got aimed at them, they're like, what? And you just saw them go,
Yeah.
and they're dead. And all of a sudden, the Reaper cannon hits you, disintegrates your armor only,
Disintegrates everything around
And
you.
then-
too.
but your clothes are still, they're torn up, but it just disintegrates
Not only that,
your
why
armor.
is your comm system working? You get up into the
I
Citadel.
forgot
How
to talk
is
about
Anderson talking to you? How is anyone talking to you? If your helmet's gone and your armor's disintegrated, how are people talking to you in your ear?
Right.
And then, obviously, the plot hole of the Normandy running away. Why would Joker come down, pick up your allies that were just with you,
And why aren't they dead?
and then ditch you? Yeah, first of all, why are they not dead? And then why do they completely ditch you? The mass relay is by Pluto. So in that 10 minutes it took me to do the final thing, they picked up my allies, avoided all the Reapers, had time to pick them up, made it to Pluto, and shot off and beat the beam
And
or
leave
beat up
Shepard.
the explosion, and left Shepard behind, which they would never do. Obviously, after playing number 2, they would never do that.
See, that's a good point.
Yeah.
What other
And that's
plot holes?
definitely, I mean, when you look at it at face value, when you first start playing that, if you don't start noticing these other things, like, that's pretty
See, and
bad.
that's
And
where
it makes
I
sense
have
why
to
people
say-
have issues.
That's where I have to say, I look at what BioWare has done with these 3 games. And I'm saying this to a guy who I don't like BioWare. And I absolutely love the Mass Effect series. It's one of my favorite series of all times. Mass Effect 2 is in my top 10 games of all time. And this is coming from a guy who is an arcade, hardcore, third-person, beat-em-up, Bayonetta loving, touching, sweet loving. And I love this series so much. So to see the love and care they put into this, and then to say they got lazy at the last one, as little as I like BioWare as a company, I don't think they do that.
Well, but it is
It's
apt
happened
to-
before,
it
though,
is,
so, I mean-
it is apt to make that assessment with.
But Mass Effect 3,
but with-
Dragon Age was big,
well,
but
no,
Dragon Age was never
but
in the
see,
Mass
I'm
Effect
saying
realm.
this as a person that doesn't think this. You know, I'm saying this
Right.
as
Devil's
advocate argument.
Right.
Old Republic. All the time and effort that all the team at BioWare has to put into Old Republic at that
Yeah.
time. That
It's
can
hard.
easily, if
Look
you're
at
focusing
Blizzard.
half your troops on something else, it can attribute
Yeah.
to poor writing, can attribute to poor
Good.
decisions.
I saw,
so I can see people making that.
I saw a graph with Blizzard the other day. It's like how they spent all their time on WoW. It took them, I think it was 12 years since the last Diablo. No, it was 12 years since the last StarCraft, and then I think it was 10 years since the last Diablo was made. And then Dota 2 is finally coming out. That's just how much time they have. I mean, that's not exactly development time,
right.
but that's just time between
But I can look
games.
at a company like Kojima Productions. I think does a great job of balancing out, quality versus quantity of games.
Will they
You know,
make
Metal-
MMOs, though?
No, not MMOs. What I'm
That
saying
takes
is
a lot of
it takes a
time.
lot of work. What I'm saying is they're Metal Gear games.
Mhm.
You don't get a Metal Gear game every year. You get a Metal Gear game every 3-4
Right.
years maybe.
But see, you're looking at games that are like all within like a year, big games,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
one,
And they also are pumping
one
out
company
Dragon
is
Age.
making.
But
They're
I
working
mean,
on Dragon Age 3 right now, so they were also working on that while this is getting
yeah,
done.
but they have a lot of support with EA, man.
Yeah.
They have the money and the crew to do it.
Oh, EA has money.
Oh gosh,
Online
man.
passes.
I mean, they got lazy with.
Yeah.
I do want to
Yeah,
talk
we can
about
talk
the
about
Tali
that.
thing. I've been romancing Tali since 2. Are you a Tali dude?
No.
Who are you?
Liara.
Liara.
Yeah.
You got the
well,
blue
in,
chick.
in 2 it was Miranda, but in 3 it was Liara all the way.
See, I was Tali, but yeah, boy over here
We-
ruined.
It was an accident. I mean,
We can talk about Tali in a little bit.
Yeah,
though.
we'll talk about Tali in a little bit here. But kind of going along with that, do you have any other plot holes or stuff you
I
want
mean,
to talk about?
now that all this evidence is out, I think the raging will settle down a little bit when people start seeing that maybe this indoctrination thing is true. Because I mean, there's just so much evidence pointing in that direction. It almost has to be true.
Well, it's
And
just
I would
weird.
argue-
It was just weird.
but
Mhm.
but
The
see, I
whole
would
thing
argue-
felt weird. But
Yeah.
I mean,
you look at these, and there's too many clues.
There is now that
there's too
all
many things
these
that
people
point
came together.
that point to the right direction of indoctrination. That can't be
Well, I mean,
bad writing.
yeah, looking at that video now, when all this forum came together, all the fans came together and found all this evidence supporting it and brought it into one video, it's easy to see that, yeah, there's all this evidence. But the first time, not everyone's going to notice the same plot holes when they play. They're just going
Right.
to think it's funky.
Yeah.
I just
So,
thought,
I mean, obviously,
That's
some,
why there
yeah.
needs to be clarification.
Yeah, but at the same time, since it does end so abruptly without all the... See, the big thing is there's no closure. Even with the indoctrination thing, there's no
yeah,
closure.
I didn't feel, and that's what I did feel was missing in 2. you had a big epic battle. Now 3 it was big. There was a lot of toughness.
Man, that last battle, it was fun.
It was tough.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was just
2 had this
It's not
big.
but it's not like
You're fighting this huge skeletal reaper
Yeah.
that's the
figure
thing. You're not
thing,
fighting
like,
one
It's-
person.
yeah, it's
You're not
five
fighting
you
one
really
banshees at
feel
one
once.
specific
3
individual.
doesn't. It's not like I beat the big guy, which again could be them trying to switch the status
why-
quo.
That's why I like it though, because it's like it's a twist on your final. The final battle isn't that long, big ass battle,
Right.
and it isn't the last marauder you have to shoot. I don't like that response. Like
Marauder shields.
Yeah, like
Oh.
the final boss battle was a marauder. It's
They
like
gave him a backstory though. Have you seen the fan videos people have made? How he trained since Mass Effect 1 and 2 just to meet you in the end, and he died happy knowing you were his last enemy.
That's funny.
There's a whole
That's funny.
backstory.
But see, I find that as like a cop out. I'm like, I don't like that. I don't want to hear that. It's to me that's like crap. But I love the fact that the final boss battle is a psychological boss battle. I love it. I really do.
Robo, we can link to the indoctrination video at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that at the very end. I have a link to it on my computer.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Or,
And
yeah.
I've got it. 'Cause I
Okay,
messaged
okay.
you. Yeah. At the end, we don't want people running off right now, but at the end, we'll definitely give you a link to it. Check it out. Pause it. I mean, there's so many.
I went out today and posted the video links on all the demand a better ending for Mass Effect pages and all that stuff posted on there, and a lot of people have been watching it, so that's good.
Yeah.
And some of the raging.
And the raging.
But I think the reason they haven't clarified yet is what we talked about yesterday. They want people to figure it out for themselves before they go out there and say, hey, it was all a trick.
Yeah.
But even if it was, like, what they should have
But the
done
thing
is
is-
continued from Shepard taking that breath and then finish the ending.
But see, here's what I will say, and this reminds me of a controversy that goes on with Blade Runner. The classic: is Deckard is he human? Is he robotic? What is he?
Yeah.
And one of the big questions that the director has never answered is that he has never made a definitive he is or he is not.
Yeah.
And I think one of the greatest forms of art, I could say, not to
And-
get too deep.
Well, we need to talk about that here. I'll just say, like, after we kind of go through this, and you're going to talk about your exact experience, we need to talk about, should BioWare change the ending to this? What are the implications of
Right.
if BioWare changes the
Right.
ending? And really kind of a conversation of art versus consumerism.
Okay. Well,
so
I'll-
we need to get into that.
I'll hold on that then, and I'll just tell my experience about thinking. I did play it here. I was, oddly enough, I've been trying to get to this ending, and I thought I need to go and play through everything else before I get to the ending. But the great thing about Mass Effect is, even though I played the ending, I still want to play everything up until that
Oh, yeah.
to get all the rest of the story, to get all the
The
information.
leading up to the ending's the best part of the game.
and it's really great. So I still want to go through that.
You get a lot of information there.
But when I beat it, the first thing that hit me as weird was them landing on this planet, and I was like, "What are they
what planet
doing?
is this?
What
and
planet?
Yeah.
Like where?" I was so confused. But looking back into it, that ending part very much weirded me out, and it reminded me a lot of Metal Gear Solid. In this, you're slowly struggling along. Every last step is difficult, and then you get to the ending, and I looked at it as those parts of the, like Landon was talking about, where Anderson puts his hand up, and where you look at your hand, that wasn't done by accident.
Yeah.
They filmed that in such a way on purpose that made me think about it. They said, I want you to notice it. They looked at it for 5 seconds. And I had to say to myself, why do you want me to notice it? If this is just a classic military dudes killing things,
And I think these things,
what
like,
does that mean?
I think those things, and even when I, we're kind of talking a little bit more, like, we just notice that it's odd, and you make that connection, but you don't know what that connection is at that
Exactly,
point.
because I saw that and I just thought that was them telling me that Shepard's not doing well. My time's running out. I need to get
But
this
to
done
me,
quick.
like, well,
I didn't connect it
already
immediately
knew
with
Shepard
Anderson.
wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
You don't need, like, no one needs to go,
Well,
like,
it's getting
hey,
worse
by
if
the
he's
way, if
bleeding
you don't notice,
profusely.
Shepard's got a billion scars on his face. His clothes are torn up. Let me just show you he's bleeding, just in case you want to invite him to your
Yeah.
bar mitzvah. He's not doing
But
well.
I didn't directly connect that with Anderson though immediately.
Well, I didn't directly connect it with Anderson.
Okay.
I didn't either.
Okay.
But I just saw
You
that
just
and I said,
noticed this.
I just
Okay,
noticed. I
fair
said,
enough.
all I said was, why is BioWare showing me this?
Yes.
So that was the first instance that I started to question what was happening, because I said, you're not going to show me that to show me Shepard's injured. You've already showed me that the whole way he's walking and how he looks. So none of that has anything to do with Shepard being injured. It has to do with something else. And so then again, when I saw the little boy, I said, why are you showing me this little boy again? I felt guilty about him this whole game. Why are you showing me him again? Again, it did not make... There wasn't a good explanation that in my mind I could figure out.
Yeah.
So to me,
Which
all
is-
these
it's-
things that don't add up
it's great because it causes conversations.
Right.
In the same way, the ending of Inception, the ending, like you said, Blade
Right,
Runner,
and Inception was another great ending, which that's why
They
I
don't
know
give you the answers.
I know we want to see the answers, but that's what's part of the beauty of it is it gives you enough. It gives you enough closure, but at the same
Make you
time,
start to speculate.
makes you speculate, and then you write your own ending. You
I don't
in a
think-
way you decide. Yeah, is that last breath Shepard living?
I don't think people wanted to make their own ending though. This is 3 games in, 5 years of us waiting for the final ending, the end of this war, hundreds of hours of gameplay, multiple playthroughs, and they're going to leave it down to you deciding what happens. No one wants that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
but,
okay in
but
movies.
you see a lot. Even
But
if you
want
take
to
it
make
at face
decisions,
value,
though. I mean, the whole point of the game.
Even
was
if you
making
make it
I
at
want to make a
face
decision in
value.
the game, not a decision that's in my mind. I
But
want to
e-
know what happens. I
but
want to make a
even if you-
decision
I
that.
could use some more clarification to it, sure.
Yeah.
But I respect that idea, that concept.
right? Even if you take it at face value, and there's no kind of indoctrination going on, you still know what happens to a lot of people in there.
Everyone dies.
Well,
basically.
Not everyone dies. Synthetics die if you choose the red
Well,
one.
it depends on what your opinion is of the Mass Effect relays. If you think that them blowing up kills the galaxy, like in the Arrival DLC, then everyone pretty
See,
much
to
died.
me, and that's where
But they don't see. You have your opinion. I have my opinion. We don't know for
that's
sure
where I
because only
think
BioWare
that,
can
and
confirm
I
that.
would think something like that. The only way we've seen a mass relay destroyed is through an asteroid. When Shepard destroyed it to kill the
Yeah, but
Debatarians.
blowing up's blowing up. Those explosions on the galaxy map are huge. So you mean you don't know?
Well, but the
It's fair
thing is,
enough.
we throw an asteroid in it, or do we shut it off at the base of it,
Shut it off. Shutting it off
or
explodes
destroy it, or destroy
Okay,
it? I mean,
okay.
there's a big difference. Okay, there's a big difference between throwing a rock at a mine and having somebody that's a bomb disposal expert blowing it up. They blow
Mm-hmm.
up, both of them do, but in very different ways. One's controlled and one's not controlled. My thought behind that is the creators, the Reapers, they had it controlled, and they could make it explode.
That's
I
it's
wouldn't.
a complete possibility.
It's a complete. And see,
no
that's
one
where
knows though.
I'm not one of those people that I guess I just don't worry about those details. I'm more interested in these characters, and the little details to me just kind of.
Well, everyone dying is a pretty big detail.
Well, the synthetic dying is a big detail, but as far as like, well, does the Mass Effect relay blow up 500 galactic miles or 1,000 galactic miles?
Well, it's everyone in
I-
the galaxy. That's what the whole point. Like the DLC, they show that they made that canon. They went out of their way to show us what happens when you blow up a Mass Effect relay. So I mean, people are obviously going to think that when a Mass Effect relay blows up from now on, everyone's going to die because that issue
But
came
I
up
think that
multiple
also
times in
just
number 3.
becomes a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Do all of them blown up in a controlled way, or all of them blown up uncontrollably? Again,
But then you've got the other kind of side, which I don't know how much I feel about this, though, was literally everything, all of that in his head. If it was all in
Yeah,
his head,
I believe that
then,
it was in his head.
then the Mass Effect relays don't explode.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was in
See,
his
and
head.
that's why
But we're
he's,
talking-
he's back to reality at
But I
that
mean,
point.
if you're
So,
taking face value,
well, that's what I'm
then-
saying. Like, there's really 3 ways you
and
can
that's
do
the
that.
only. I will say all the evidence leading up to indoctrination, I totally go with. The one that just sells it for me is when you're on, at least in the red ending, when you're on the Crucible and you kill all the Reapers, that thing starts falling apart. At the very end, you see it fall apart. You're in the middle of space. You're giving the impression it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So the
How did he
last
end up in
right,
concrete?
the last you know is Shepard's dead. So he either died because he's past synthetic, or if that didn't kill him,
Re-entry.
he's dead because of re-entry,
Mass Effect
just like
2.
he died in 2.
Mhm.
So then to see him on the ground breathing, I go, wait a
Yeah,
second.
that is the biggest evidence.
I know you might not have time to work on it because you're working on other games, but you're not going to specifically put a clip of a character who died breathing on the ground on Earth
Right.
for nothing. So that's why the indoctrination totally sells me that last clip at 5,000.
I think the reason they haven't clarified yet is they have been planning on making a DLC. Obviously, they weren't going to end it like that. They knew people would be upset. I think they've been working on this DLC they announced for a while now. Because they said you're going to hear more about the ending
certainly.
in April.
I mean, they.
So I mean, I think they
But
had,
that last
they,
ending
they
did
did
say
mine.
there's, and he said, okay, one last story.
Yes, at the end,
Mhm.
with the Stargazer.
So
So I don't think
that's how it ends.
them making the DLC was because of everyone.
No,
I'm
and
sure
that's-
that pushed
that was
it
kind of that was
them to
part
announce
of
it.
you know
but-
you had when we had a conversation immediately after we
Mhm.
both finished it. You were like, but what's now they're making this DLC to fix the ending. I'm like, not necessarily. I mean, it's possible. You know,
Right,
you never
I'd
know
like
what
to
they're
see
going
what
to
they
do.
do.
Fix
But
or to say add to.
I can't remember.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
know. But kind of moot at this point. But it's like they had already promised that there's going to be plenty of DLC, both in terms of story, because why would they not? They did it with 2, and in terms of multiplayer. So obviously they're going to be doing more to the story. And now they've come out and they've said, they haven't said we're going to change the ending. They've
They're
just
gonna
said
clarify
we're going
is
to add
the
a little
word.
clarification.
Mhm.
So
But I mean, it's reasonable to believe that in number 2, half the DLC was adding companions or during the game, and you do when you beat it reload right before the Cerberus mission. So it's possible they add missions that you do before the final mission again.
Yeah.
So it's not like we knew DLC was coming, but it wasn't guaranteed it was going to clarify the ending.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
part
And
of it as well.
Yeah. So should we move on to?
Well, let's move on to the
if they change the ending.
If they change the ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk now at this point. What if, because of fan outcry, because of petitions signed, because of money raised, they say, BioWare, we want a new ending. This ending was not good enough for us. We, as a consumer, demand a good ending because we've bought your games 1, 2, and 3, and the consumer is right, and we want a new ending. If BioWare succumbs to that and really does change the ending, they don't clarify it, but they literally rewrite the ending. Why is that good or bad? To me, I see it as so bad, so not bad. I pray that even if they come out and say, okay, the ending at face value, just poor writing, I don't care. If it comes out as poor writing and there's so many plot holes, don't you dare fucking rewrite that ending, because that is a slap in the face to game creators.
Well, not just game creators, but I think as we can relate to as artists and designers.
Yes, exactly.
You know, we make choices.
Where do you draw the line as art and you making your creative decisions and consumerism? Because we demand and we fight so hard against Roger Ebert saying, like, games are art. If we're going to vehemently defend games as becoming as art and not a consumer product, even though it really is a consumer, I mean, we're buying it in the same way that we buy art, though.
Right.
We should not demand and get the response of a new ending because we demand it. You know, it's not, where do we draw the line of we're, demanding as consumers and it being art? And I see they should not do it.
What do you think of that?
See, I don't think it's as big. I'm obviously not an artist. I'm majoring in accounting, so I don't really look at it from a design point of view. But I mean, honestly, if there's that, like the argument's been brought up, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to a play and boo people or demand to have nicer. If your food's messed up, demand to have better food.
Well, say a play is a perfect example. You go to a play. I don't like the ending to Othello. You need to change the ending to Othello to make it good for me.
There's alternate endings in DVDs.
Right, but I'm just saying
there's nothing wrong with. I don't think they should have a DLC that takes out the last mission, has a new last mission. I think they should add to it. There's no reason to change, rewrite a game, but to add on to the end. And
I think that's what they will do, because that's what happened. Well, I have the feeling it is, because Mass Effect 2 had a very definite end. It was very Empire Strikes Back, as it were. We've all gotten ready. We've all amassed. We've killed the bad guys. We're just waiting for them to come. And that was the end of Empire Strikes Back. So I feel like when you go to this ending, the way it came about, I believe when they're talking about this DLC, they're looking into the future, especially with that ending with the Stargazer, one more story.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
it says... It's in there.
It's blatant. It's in there. To me, it's saying, we're going to give you this little tidbit that's going to make you question. It's going to make you wonder. So that then, as we come out with this DLC, the DLC is not going to be to add characters. Because we can't add characters as far as Mass Effect 3 goes. We don't want to add characters. The reason they could, but the reason they had the DLC in Mass Effect 2 was to bridge, especially the Arrival.
There's character downloads in Mass Effect 2 as well.
There were, but no,
they've already had the Prothean in 3, so they
right. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the downloads for 2, it was to obviously bridge to 3, especially the Arrival. Now we're not trying to bridge into another game. So this DLC is going to switch from, in what I feel, a bridge to another game into clarification, into motives, into endings, into thoughts behind how they made this ending.
And I don't want people to... we've got a statement in here, Crimson Riots. Sure, they'll clear it up for 1,500 Microsoft points. I don't want people to... This kind of statement, that kind of mentality happened with Final Fantasy 13 too, with... You get the ending, there's a to be continued, there's going to be something else, and or whatever, but that to be continued meant something completely different. So people immediately freak out, and they're like, oh, well, now I got to pay for the ending? Fuck that, and freak out. I'm like, don't jump to that conclusion just yet, because now Final Fantasy 13 has announced, I don't know if it's released yet or not, but has announced that DLC that you're getting isn't a new ending, it isn't added to the ending, it is literally a story of Zaz that takes place during the events of 13.2. So all that fan outcry and all that crazy shit that happened is moot. So, and that's the problem with sometimes with the internet is that one person gets upset and it's a rallying cry, and everybody just follows suit and doesn't look at information and makes all these large I don't know the word I'm trying to think of, over exaggerated opinions without having knowledge. You know what I mean? So you kind of got to wait.
I think I would have been more ticked off if the ending was the classic happy, everybody goes home.
Well,
I would have been ticked off if they did that thing where like, hey, everybody's saved, you killed the Reapers, and we all go home. I would have felt like, what is that? I would have felt so like.
I hate how this is all coming down to a happy ending or a sad ending though, because I don't think that just completely nullifies. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I would have rather not had that.
I've read multiple places where everyone's just complaining and bitching because they want a happy ending. That's not what this is about. It's about clarification and your decisions mattering. And people have a right to be upset about that. But people saying you're just mad because it was sad or because it was sad is not what it is whatsoever.
Well, and I don't think that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Besides those arguments, it has nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying I'm glad they didn't go that route because they could have had a cop out.
I mean, they've hinted from the beginning that Shepard's going to die. At the
right.
End
They
of this.
could have a cop out on that. My question is, what happens if everyone dies in Mass Effect 2?
They don't show up. I had a friend that had.
What happens
Jack
if Shepard
die.
dies in 2?
He doesn't die at the end, does he? Is there a way for Shepard to die at the end? I thought at least he made it out.
No, he can die. Everybody can die. That was the big thing at the end of Mass Effect 2. Everybody, including Shepard, can die, and you can save your game. It doesn't say game over. You can be like,
I'm not sure. To be honest, I got the good ending.
I
didn't get anything for it, but I got the good ending.
GQ, how you doing? By the way, sir, thank you for joining us. We appreciate one of the casting gods of JTV. He's a casting specter, as it is. Yes, if we were going to put it in Mass Effect terms.
Yeah, sure, I got you.
Well, and I think as we were talking about. As with anything, BioWare and whatever they've got in other games, I think they put too much into this to dismiss this off as
all companies make mistakes. Though.
They all do make mistakes. They all make mistakes, but I don't see this ending as a fact of a mistake because you look at the entire.
All this evidence now, yeah.
But besides that, you look at the entire game. 98% of the game I loved. Mm-hmm. So I have to say, if this game was poorly done...
Well, I love 100% of the game.
Well, I mean, I love it. What I'm saying is the drama's about 1-2% of the game. Mm-hmm. And
last
people love 98%. So my thought is, if 99% of the game was great, I would have seen these problems elsewhere. I would have gone, well, this doesn't work right, or this doesn't do right. Why doesn't that make sense? It would have been continual through the game. It was only at the last part, and that's why I do.
I mean, there was issues with the other part of the game, like we talked about before. How if you save everybody in Mass Effect 2, they don't. I mean, there was other complaints, obviously,
right?
Other issues,
but
that's
like, not bad writing, though. I mean, it's not like blatant plot.
No, that's not bad writing. That's trying to deal with the inconsistencies of different playthroughs.
What was the point of keeping Grunt alive in that cutscene if they say, "Oh, Grunt's gonna be up and running in a few days," and then he doesn't join your party?
There's a difference between that's disappointing. There's a difference between that and there's plot hole.
Right.
Okay.
Those are two different things.
And so what people are complaining about here at the end isn't necessarily it is disappointing, but they're disappointed because they see plot holes. And if there's such big plot holes, like you say, like 12 plot holes there at the end, like surely there's going to be some more interlatent throughout the whole game.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You would see those throughout the. You would see. Disappointments are going to arise, but I didn't see any other plot holes through the rest of it.
Yeah.
So that's why I have to say that there is something about this, and I think I don't know who said it, but. Or it's been said, the best art is the kind that causes controversy and conversation. So to that effect, as much as people have disagreements on what Mass Effect's ending really is, this idea of face value or indoctrination, the fact that we're talking about it now for over an hour and the internet is talking about it, that to me shows an ingenuity in an ending that is not just your classic God of War. When God of War ended, I didn't see this happening.
Oh, Strider, you can't import a Mass Effect 2 save with Shepard dead.
Oh, I see. Oh.
So I guess if your Shepard died number 2, you shouldn't play number 3.
Probably not.
That's what you're just like. You don't get to play.
Yeah.
You messed up that bad.
It just guilt trips you. It turns you on. It's like the team at BioWare, like, really, dude? Really?
Oh, that'd be so awesome.
That's what you wanted to do. So I think it says something about BioWare, positive, no matter how you feel about it, that they can have a game come out like this. And have us having a conversation so impassioned because we do love the characters and we do love the story and we do love the universe. And as we were watching the last battle, I was like, Star Wars, and Star Trek, we haven't seen anything like this. And to me, Mass Effect is my Star Wars, Star Trek
Well,
fix that we haven't
every single
gotten.
every single time I explain like Mass Effect, I try to sell something like, dude, it is literally the Star Trek game you should have had always. You know,
Right, exactly.
amazing.
And the way
I would say it's
the way-
more Star Trek than Star Wars, but
True, it is. It is. So,
One thing that was weird, I guess I forgot to bring this up earlier, is why Harbinger, the head Reaper, played such a big role in number 2 and was so interested in you, but the only role he plays in number 3 is when he hits you with that beam, and that's it. I think they could have added on that relationship a little bit more.
But I think
that was
once-
kind of weird.
that's the problem with Mass Effect is it is compounded from 1 to 2 to 3. If they involved everybody in every way,
Well, I mean, the head antagonist shouldn't be that big of an issue to involve. Because, I mean, they made a
but see, the
Man
antagonists changed though from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3.
Well, you killed the guy number 1. Number 2, you didn't kill Harbinger, so he should still... I mean, he's what you're really fighting in the end, not Elusive Man. He should play a little bit of a role, at least. He's the head of the Reaper attack.
Well, see, he is the head of the Reaper attack, but he's the voice of the Reapers. You're fighting against the Reapers.
But you didn't talk to the voice at all in the game, is what I'm saying is weird. He talked to you multiple times in 2.
what if it
But it's
turns
just-
out? What if it turns out that he is the little boy?
Could be.
Well,
We
what
don't
if
know.
what if he is voiced through Elusive Man?
Yeah.
What if the Elusive
I mean,
Man
it's a
was
lot of
his
what ifs.
voice?
That's the whole problem with not having closure.
that's what it all boils down to. It's like at this point, I would argue, I like the ending. I think it's a really
I
good
wouldn't
ending.
overanalyze it. See, and that's the problem. When I got the ending, I didn't want to overanalyze it. I didn't. To me, it was like I was confused, and it was a little weird.
You almost have to overanalyze it to get the indoctrination, though. You
Well,
gotta analyze every little bit to get all this evidence that's leading toward indoctrination.
well, but see, to me, like I said, that breathing
Well, I think it's
thing,
great to analyze.
the
it. I
breathing
analyze
thing.
everything.
Well, I'm just saying,
Put it on
at the
Jump
moment,
Street. Analyze.
at the moment, the breathing thing is what got me to say something's wrong about
Mm-hmm.
this. So whether it is indoctrination or some other theory, I just think you get into trouble
Well, that's
when you overanalyze it
Well,
too much.
I think analyzing is wonderful for me. I do think that it would not hurt for some clarification through DLC. I think that would be a good assessment.
But the clarification they could just wrap up in the cutscene. So the question is, what are they going to do to make the DLC work? Because obviously it's going to cost Microsoft points. They're not going to put all this work into a
'cause
cutscene
it doesn't
and release it.
But here's the thing:
So they
it
gotta
doesn't
add
necessarily
something.
mean that the Reapers are dead. If you really
Oh,
truly
they're not. Yeah,
exactly.
So are they
that's your
going to
DLC.
continue it when you wake up?
Yes.
Or are
probably.
they just going to leave that alone and not add to the ending and just make it?
Who
Because
knows?
honestly, people just want to know what happens to the companions for the most part. I think. But honestly,
They do?
if it's
We
you
wanna know
don't
what
you don't
happens to
care what
Shepard, though.
happens. Well,
You care what happens to
Shepard's
Shepard,
dead
though.
technically, unless you chose the
Well,
red choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously,
So
a
what if they-
sequel or a DLC is going to continue from the
So,
proper ending.
Are they
you
going to
know?
make it so blue and green you're just game over? If you
Oh, I
chose
don't
those?
know, but the point is, I mean, if you make the wrong choice, that's not BioWare's fault.
Yeah. Like, I guess there is.
I would see that if
there's
they're
an
gonna-
I mean, it's
autosave.
like it's like
But
they
if they're
said in
gonna-
ME2. If you killed everybody in
There's
ME2, I can't import. Why you're doing that? You're the one who made the bad
There's
choice.
an autosave right before you make the decision, so that could be part of that. If you guys haven't noticed that yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'll
So
let you know.
I don't know. I will just say I have faith in BioWare. I have faith that BioWare is going to do something on this.
You did not play Dragon Age 2, sir.
Oh, I have. I just have faith in the Mass Effect BioWare.
Okay, fair enough.
You know.
So are you scared? Because I thought you were kind of on board with all
No, I
this.
mean I support the indoctrination theory. The question is, obviously now after seeing all this new evidence, I'm leaning toward BioWare wrote it. But when I first saw it, it was just fans compiling all this information on a forum. So the question
So
is,
why are you so skeptical then?
because they can still mess up. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen with this DLC. They haven't said.
Yeah.
So are they gonna add on to it? Like they need to.
I find this I find this some really awesome writing, and I absolutely love the idea that your final boss battle is a psychological battle. I love that.
Yeah,
I find that
I do think
wonderful
that
writing, and
it is different.
And
It
I
is
pray
different.
and I hope that the DLC will have just as cool writing, maybe a little bit more concise that helps players along a little bit more. Would be my only caveat to that.
Right.
Maybe help people along so they can avoid this kind of craziness happen again. Granted, I kind of like this craziness.
But see, I like
to terms of
the
Inception
idea.
and Blade Runner.
I do like the
Some of my
idea.
favorite
That's why I
films.
love Inception and Blade Runner so much. Is because everything wasn't answered. Because these days, I feel we have everything handed to us. When it comes to video games and movies and television, everything is handed to us. That's part of the reason I didn't get lost, because I only watched one episode and I said, "What's going on?"
I jumped halfway into it and I was like,
But I
oh,
know that's part of the reason people loved Lost is because, of course, I didn't watch the ending, but through
People
the
also
series,
hated the ending.
well, they
Yeah.
hated the ending. But what I will say is, what they did love about the series up until the ending was the fact that there were actually more questions than there were answers.
Yeah.
So I think as a gamer, as somebody who enjoys this digital interactive entertainment, I like being challenged. I like having these questions to where everything isn't spoon fed to me. And if
The
anything,
problem
you
is,
get
I
a
don't
Mass
think
Effect.
it was fed to people enough. That's why there's such this outcry of hatred toward
Well,
the
how much
ending.
does it need to be fed to them?
Obviously enough for everyone to get it. I mean, because otherwise all this
Well,
problem
that's
would be here.
that's a creative. That's where it starts to bridge the line of art and consumerism because
Right.
it's like
Because with art, you can
don't-
put a piece of paint up there, and you're like, well, what is it?
you don't
It's up to your
you
interpretation.
don't give everybody everything, and so it is
Because
that
that's what art
decision.
is. That's
And
going
you
back
take
to-
a big risk with that. With Inception, with Blade Runner, with these other films, I'm sure we could list, probably if we do some research, we could list plenty of movies that end with, it kind of leaves it up, and there are plenty of horrible movies. It's the same thing, like, you take a big risk by doing something like this, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. And right now, BioWare is having to strive to get it to pay off for them, because it took a while for people to understand.
But I think it's a good
Not even everyone
argument.
understands it yet.
But I think it's a good argument for video games as being art. Because the fact is, when you look at art, stale, static art on a wall that doesn't move, it's up to your interpretation. And I think in that way, Mass Effect succeeds, even if people don't like it, in making it up to your interpretation. And it's not what art is. It's your interpretation of what you're viewing,
right.
of what you're experiencing. And that, to me,
Well, it makes conversation,
moves
and
games
that's,
into that form
That's
of
what,
art.
like I said before, it's like, with things like Inception, with Blade Runner, it's a risky decision, but it can also be a very rewarding decision.
Nick
and
says,
I enjoy it.
Wouldn't it be funny if the Indoctrinated Theory wasn't actually what was
Right.
meant by BioWare, but they just were like, oh, they found all
It's
this
a
evidence and they just
possibility.
ride with it.
And
Like,
that
hey,
is a
good idea.
possibility. But the reason
they
why
should pick it up at this point.
but the reason why I don't think it was just fan written is because sure fans have, if you found like 5 or 6 clues and piece it together and like, oh, okay, well
See,
that
the first
makes,
week, that's
that
all
makes
there was,
sense.
though. It's-
But now
but
it's
now
like,
there isn't.
it's so
that's
many.
what I'm saying.
and it's
Now
like,
you can't argue it.
right
At this point.
And
But the
it has
first
to be-
week.
yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to argue it.
But in
Because
a
it
way,
can't.
then, that's what's funny. Now, let's just play devil's advocate and say that was true. And people are saying, we want a good, better ending. We want to be the ones who decide the ending. Then, in turn, wouldn't we be the ones deciding the ending? If that's true. If they never had that in mind, and because of our own minds and the way we interpreted this art, we then actually changed the ending by our own rumors, thoughts, and words on the internet, then we have created our own ending. We have created our own art within Mass Effect.
Well, that's the point with endings that are left open
Exactly.
like that. You're creating.
You are
yourself.
creating
So,
your own. But no, not just that, but literally in the fact that BioWare does then say, officially, we're going to stand behind that, then we have created our own ending. We have created our own art by just our will of having conversations about it.
Well,
Do you guys want to talk about the Tali thing that was brought up?
Oh,
real
yes, the
quick?
Tali
It shouldn't
thing.
take too long.
Yeah,
I think it's more of an impact to people that were involved. I didn't talk to
I
Tali
was involved
like
with
at all.
Tali.
So I mean,
Tali was my
obviously it had a bigger
chick.
impact
I
for
loved
you.
her. She's the best. Yeah, you got the photo, and I saw it. Of course, Landon showed me earlier. Ruined it for me.
well, here's the thing.
Jerk.
We gotta get, because people might not with the Tali thing is that you find out throughout all 3 games, Tali's always got her mask on, and so you don't get to see what she looks like. Okay,
Nope.
we're getting a phone call again.
Let's see here. Oh, it hung up. Okay. Well, anyway, go ahead.
The thing with the Tali thing is, so you don't get to see her face, and then finally you do in the game. You get to see her face, but you see it in the form of a photo, and people on the internet. It's amazing.
The internet.
It's amazing the things that people will find. So they find that the photo of her comes from a stock photo, which
That was a good find. Someone
it's
that found
impressive.
that.
And the thing about it is, like, plenty of people use stock photos. Brian and I are designers. We use stock photos all
Man,
the time.
iStock photo. God bless you, man.
I hate iStock Photo. I'm sorry. I find it the cheapest stock photo site ever.
It's cheap, and you can find some.
I'm all about like Masterfile and Veer. But anyways, moot point.
Look how neat and special I am, you lowly designers using iStock. I'm up here in the clouds,
it's just a-
downloading from my golden pillar of love. Woo! Well, aren't you special?
Moot argument, but nonetheless. And so they found out that it was a stock photo, and there's
From
not,
Getty Images. What do you think of Getty
and there's-
Images? Do you
Getty's
hate them?
alright. They've got a
You
lot of
hate
nice
them?
historical photos, which is.
Do you
the
want
thing
those
about
people
them.
to die at
If
Getty
you want to
Images?
look for historical photos, go check out
Okay,
Getty. Honestly,
okay.
because they're involved with time. So
Okay. So
Some
Getty
knowledge
Images
for
all
you.
right in your mind.
yes,
They're decent.
yeah, they're great for.
You don't
finding
want them
Elvis
to die.
photos. No. Anyways.
Did you actually find the image in game, by the way?
I
Did you
did.
ever? It's on his desk. Did you ever find it? Though?
I did. Because
Okay.
what happens is you'll talk. Because I was waiting for that. Because Landon said, you'll find this photo in your
I thought
cabin.
you only get it if the bad thing happens to her. Well,
No.
Okay, I thought you only got it if she committed suicide.
No, you get it if the good ending. If you keep her
Okay,
around,
I just never looked.
you'll be in engineering. She'll say, "Please come talk to me." You'll talk to her. You'll have a little talk, and she'll say, "Hey, go to your cabin. I left something special for you." And you'll go there and specifically see it, and then you'll pick it up and you'll look at it and you'll see her face, and
so you'll see, like, we didn't get a chance to say it, but yes, it's that stock photo, but it's not a lot of Photoshop added to it. It's slight.
You
slight
see three
whitening out her
fingers,
eyes and stuff.
So it's very slight.
Eyes.
And it's like, at that point, BioWare's invested so much time into this, and there's always been this mystery, and if you're going to show her...
It was a mystery since game 1, because at number 2 she takes it off, too.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Romancer.
And so you would think that they would put more effort into fully creating their own person, but...
But see, and I think the point of that...
It was bigger for the people that...
Yeah,
But see,
I don't care about.
I will say as a
Tali,
person,
and I don't care about
as a person who
Corians.
romanced Tali, who this would affect me most, I would say. The thing about her is I loved her character. I loved who she was.
Worth saving.
I loved
arguable.
the way she talked, just her personality, as cheesy as it sounds. So when I saw her picture, it was nice. I was like,
Push
wow. Boner, Aquarian boner. I'd like to put that in a suit, if you know what I'm saying. I'd like to put my crucible into your.
Anybody else notice
into your flotilla?
Anybody else notice that the crucible is literally a PlayStation Move?
It's a PlayStation Move dildo that like inserts into the Citadel. I told Landon as he's watching me, like, I'm doing my best not to make sexual jokes about this, so you must be proud of me. But I'll just say,
I made a sexual joke though right after that. Though,
you did.
I can't remember what it was, but I did.
But
I lost protection. It was something about
to
protection.
me, I saw who she is. But even though I saw the photo, even if they created it from scratch or it was a getting image, it was like cool.
Yeah.
But the reward for me was the relationship and the character and everything else beyond that. What a little picture of what she looked like.
I think it
it's
is reasonable
Doctor.
to people be upset about it being a stock photo.
I wasn't, as somebody who has it through all 3 games, I wasn't upset about it personally.
If they would have took that photo themselves and done that to it and still made it look the same, it's just the fact that someone found it on a website.
Well,
for
and what's really
$5,
funny
it's
is,
just kinda
though,
weird.
in a way, they did that with the characters in the game, and no one complained about that. Diane Allers and what's the Cerberus girl that they always do
Cerberus?
butt shots on?
Yeah, Miranda.
Miranda, they're
The
real life
girl from
characters who they modeled
Jessica
after
Chobot
them.
was the...
Who they modeled after. They're not... BioWare did not say, oh, let's make up somebody out of thin air. They used somebody's inspiration. I think the same way it could be said for Tali's picture. They used a piece of inspiration, photoshopped it, and there's Tali. So in the same way, it's kind of similar.
I think Robo Mike makes a good point. There's no picture that would have satisfied everybody.
That's true.
There's just no way.
Because it was a big
All
mystery.
that suspense. There's
and
no
I
way
think
you could...
in a way, it's like, so what's the
God
big deal
forbid
what
they
she
made her
looks
ugly.
like? You were with her the whole time. If you were really that vapid that you're obsessed with looks, you wouldn't have gotten with her in the first place.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So, you think we've kind of covered most of this?
I think we kind of covered
So
it.
overall, still recommend the game?
Oh,
most
sure.
definitely.
Hell yeah.
Most
Thank you.
definitely.
Recommend playing the first two
game.
first, though.
Yeah, play through the first 2. I cannot imagine just making decisions from 2 with that DLC and then getting into this.
Especially doing the ending without playing the first 2 and not knowing what indoctrination really is.
But
Because you
learn a lot about indoctrination
in the
though.
first one, Saren, the whole thing's about indoctrination.
Yeah, but you learn a
But
lot
number
more.
2 as well.
You get a lot of direct information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Well, I'd recommend it. You recommend it, and
Yes.
so would you. It's
100%.
still worth the
I
price.
love the game, every bit of it.
Well, I look forward to see what they're coming out with, and even though I played the ending, this is how good it is. I'm still going to go back home and play through all the stuff I
Plus
haven't
the
played
multiplayer
through.
is phenomenal.
Plus the multiplayer, dude. We're going to be getting on a multiplayer.
For one person,
That's
for
something we can agree on. If you don't agree,
single player game.
if you don't agree on the single player, get together in multiplayer, chat it out, and just kill stuff together.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, thank you, Crimson. We appreciate this
Yes.
very much. He's come from MVG, the honorable MVG,
Hopefully you enjoyed it.
the
Check out
god
we do.
of Justin.tv.
Yeah, we do Boomzies as well, and just check out some other stuff.
Yes,
So
Boomzies,
if
and
you
check
enjoyed
out
our
Substance
kind of
TV.
weird rambling here.
.net. We're going to be doing much more of that stuff. So again, thank you very much, Dirk.
Yeah, thanks for
joining
having
the
me
show.
on again.
It was
We
fun.
appreciate it. And
Good talk.
good talk. Very
Are you
good
satisfied? You were very adamant that we do this.
Yeah.
Yes, okay,
yeah,
great,
definitely.
good.
Because no one else talks about it.
Good.
It seems like
All right.
Yeah. So we talked about it, chewed the fat, and we'll do this
Had a
again
good time.
sometime.
we did it without.
Yes.
insulting
And this is
people.
random, by the way. We're not going to do this every.
And they might be shorter.
And they might be shorter. Yeah.
This is very extended.
So anyway, well, guys, first time watching Crimson. The main show started an hour ago. Oh yeah, this is the post show.
Yeah.
So
So
anyway,
for Landon,
Dirk.
and Brian, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
For
See ya.
Boomzies at 10. See you guys.